Hey guys, originally wasn't going to do a vlog on this, but I mean the news is just so big. How could I not share my reactions about Marvel Studios essentially announcing their entire Phase 3 lineup for the next, from the looks of things, for the next 4 or 5 years. And I mean this is big news, and yeah, I can see some of this kind of compete a little bit with all the release dates DC recently announced and everything like that. But I mean, this one I'm a little bit more jazzed for because DC, take what you will about Man of Steel, it got people reinvested in the brand again. Um, but they still have a ways to go to prove themselves as a film producing franchise in terms of the shared universe concept for their characters. They've had successes with Superman, with Batman, with a couple of other characters here and there on their own, but they haven't really proved themselves yet with sharing a universe together. And hopefully Batman versus Superman will deliver on that, but I feel they're very untested in that, so the news of their release dates for future films that in several years seems a little preemptive, I feel. And well, just hopefully it all goes according to plan. But for Marvel, though, I'm jazzed because from the very beginning, Marvel seems to have had this plan very well structured, very well defined, and had a clear idea of where they wanted the characters to go, what franchises they wanted to introduce, and when, and tie it into this larger story. So just going down the dates, essentially, like we'll have our third Captain America on May 6th, 2016, looking to be Cap versus Iron Man in a Civil War-like scenario. Obviously, it won't be as faithful to the original Civil War uh, comic event a couple years back, which honestly, a lot of people don't like that storyline. I'm actually okay with it. I felt the universe needed kind of a game changer in that sense, with a bunch of heroes in terms of their status, like Spider-Man having his identity be a secret and then be revealed, and also, to have that serious debate about, who do these guys report to, essentially. And so I enjoyed it for what it was. I'm kind of sad they did retcon a lot of, or not retcon, but backpedal on a lot of stuff again. One more day. Obviously, the Captain America movie version of that story is going to be a little bit smaller in scope, probably. It won't involve all those characters, seeing as how a couple of those characters are licensed out to other film studios. But what are you going to do? So that is kind of sad. You won't have a Tony Stark, Steve Rogers feud with Peter Parker stuck in the middle of it. Because that, I always liked that dynamic. He was always kind of a fan of both of them. He admired both of them, and he's caught between the two of them. But whatever. So Marvel Civil War will be represented in some way, shape, or form with Cap 3. Moving on to Doctor Strange. They haven't made an official announcement yet. I'm really still hoping Benedict Cumberbatch is down for it. I know for a while I was saying Joaquin, but more and more I think about it, more talks I've had about it with people, like on the Geek News podcast. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he'd be a studio player, so to speak. And this came up with regards to Edgar Wright too, and his direction for Ant-Man and everything like that. Like, I love Edgar Wright's style and directing, but he's just too unique a voice to stay grounded with studio rules for several years. Joss Whedon, James Gunn, Jon Favreau, those guys, they're great directors, have a great vision, but they seem a little bit more willing to play ball with Marvel Studios with regards to what they want their creative focus to be and what they want the direction of their properties to go, where they want the direction of their properties to go. So, Joaquin, yeah, for Doctor Strange, I could see that not working very much. He may have gone the way of Ed Norton in terms of wanting a little bit more input into his character and so forth, which actors are entitled to, I feel. But Benedict Cumberbatch, I hope that becomes official soon, very soon, because I think he'd make a great Doctor Strange. He's got that, he can get the technical speak down, like in Sherlock. He's a very good actor, and he can play off creepy pretty well and surreal, more surreal. Like, he's not all there sometimes. Guardians of the Galaxy 2, May 5th, 2017. Oh yeah, of course there's going to be a second Guardians of the Galaxy 2. I want to see where that goes. It has to involve more of the Infinity Stones. That get that narrative rolling. So I'm excited to see more Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Not entirely familiar with the property comic wise, but the movie definitely got me hooked. I really enjoyed the film. One of my favorites of the year. July 28th, 2017, Thor Ragnarok. Well, of course, probably the penultimate Thor movie was going to be called Ragnarok. And I have a feeling, based off of the clip they showed at the presentation of Avengers Age of Ultron, Thor gets a glimpse of Ragnarok from, like, Scarlet Witch or something like that at some point in the movie. Like, everyone gets shown visions of something. Like, I'm sure Tony Stark sees, like, all his friends dead. That's probably what was shown in the trailer somewhat, with Cap's broken shield. They were talking about how Thor went off somewhere to go deal with something, and they're wondering what he saw in his vision or something like that. So maybe it ties into Ragnarok. It's said to be a very defining chapter, not just for Thor, but for the universe, as the Marvel universe as a whole. So we'll see how that goes. Black Panther, November 3rd, 2017, right? Starring Chadwick Boseman, fucking Jackie Robinson / James Brown as Black Panther. I can get behind that. I really liked 42. Granted, Chadwick Boseman, for me, wasn't really the highlight of that movie. It was mainly Harrison Ford playing Arthur Branchy. But Chadwick Boseman is a good. I thought he did a good job. If they'd only give him a little bit more gritty stuff of Jackie Robinson's career, rather than portraying Jackie as this, like, superhero essentially and just a saint all around. But he did a good job with what he had. He displayed anger, frustration, and the trials and tribulations that Robinson had to go through. So that's good. I was kind of hoping for Chiwetel Ejiofor from 12 Years a Slave. That would have been, for me, the ideal casting choice. But, I could see him not being able to commit to multiple franchises as well. Even though he was in Serenity, he's worked with Joss Whedon before. Not saying Joss Whedon might be directing Black Panther, but he's familiar with someone who's in these line of movies, and you figured maybe Joss could help a brother out. But, no, I mean, Chadwick Boseman, I feel, will be a great Black Panther. Seeing him up on stage with Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans was pretty cool. And granted, he's standing next to Downey Jr., who's this larger-than-life personality, and Chris Evans is just towering over him. And there's good old, humble Chad Boseman going, did I say Boswick before? I'm sorry, I think it's Chad Boseman. So he's just saying, like, let's just make magic together, guys. He's being like the mediator between these two superstars, essentially. Which is really cool. Now, here's what we get. Like in the presentation, I'm going to skip over one in the middle so we can get on to the other new characters being revealed. July 6, 2018, Captain Marvel. Female Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers. This is the one I'm the most familiar with since I've come back to Marvel Comics in the past couple of years. This is the Captain Marvel I've been following a little bit more. I'm down with a female Captain Marvel. We got to branch out. We got to get a couple more members of the opposite gender out there to headline their own movies. I can understand why they're not, at this particular moment, doing a Black Widow spin-off or a Black Widow prequel, because, yeah, her storyline is very Avengers-centric, and from the sound of things from the presentation, Black Widow is going to have a lot of stuff to do. She's a pretty important part of the Avengers saga. So maybe after that dust settles on the Avengers, we can get a Black Widow solo film. But for now, Captain Marvel, I'd say that's a great character to kick off female-led superhero films. Katie Sackhoff, I know, has been rumored for a long time to be the ideal candidate for this role. I like that. I like her as Starbuck. I like her in other stuff I've seen her in. Yeah, I think she'd make a great Captain Marvel, but, I mean, who knows what the direction will be for that particular film. So, yeah, and ready to see some Earth-bound stuff meet some cosmic-powered stuff. November 2nd, 2018, The Inhumans. Now, this, out of all the franchises in Marvel, this is the one I have the least bit of knowledge on. I mean, I've gotten a little bit. I read Earth X, and that tied in a lot with the Inhumans and their origins and the Terrigen Mists and things like that. I'm aware of the characters. Black Bolt is king of the Inhumans. Medusa's his queen, and he has his whole family essentially made up of all these other people with extraordinary gifts and abilities, and they got a dog with a tuning fork on his head named Lockjaw. From what I can understand, the Inhumans have always been tied very strongly to the Fantastic Four franchise. So it'll be interesting to see what their origins are, what their role is in this Marvel Cinematic Universe in which the Fantastic Four is absent. I'm curious to see how they play around with that. I'm curious to see if there are hints about them coming into development before this. Like, I wonder if Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver in this universe are Inhumans. In fact, maybe even like one of their first Inhumans, due to the fact that Marvel can't use the term mutants in this universe. So we'll see. Now, going back to the May 4th, 2018 date, because that is Avengers Infinity War Part 1. And then Avengers Infinity War Part 2 is May 3rd, 2019. They're splitting it up a year, like they do with the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies. Or Twilight, for some stupid reason. You know, I mean, we all saw that coming. Avengers Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet, we all knew that was going to be kind of the culmination of a lot of these storylines, the culmination of a lot of these characters, probably. Who knows? We might be seeing a lot of people go bye. We might see a lot of people bite the bullet in Age of Ultron just a couple of months away. But I don't know. I'm not surprised they split it into two parts, even though that's kind of default for any final chapter in a saga. I don't want to think it's a final chapter because these movies can keep going. But the Infinity Gauntlet, Infinity War, the way they've been building up that story a little bit and building up Thanos, that's going to be a big event. The problem I see with it is I don't see how there can be a to be continued, essentially, and then you fit in these other movies into that. Ideally within the chronology. Maybe they won't. Maybe Captain Marvel and Inhumans will be out of the chronology a little bit. Maybe happen before Infinity War. But it's just weird to me because the only place I can see them having a cliffhanger to break off to Part 2 is where Thanos destroys half the universe by just snapping his fingers with the gauntlet. So that's kind of a downer ending for your Part 1. But, I mean, who knows? I have faith in Marvel and them pulling off this stuff. Yeah, I'm more excited about this than the DC lineup. Granted, if the DC films turn out to be good, sure, I'll enjoy them. But Marvel's had this plan in motion for many years. If it seriously still just feels like DC's playing catch up. They don't, like it. They have an idea, but they don't have the stepping stones in place of how to approach that idea with the same amount of success that Marvel has mustered. So that's all I got. I'm excited. I'm jazzed about Phase 3. I can't wait to see how Phase 2 wraps up. I actually am looking forward to Ant-Man. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, this is going to be the bad one. The bad Marvel movie, or the downer Marvel movie that, you know, the beginning of the end. I don't know. We haven't seen the footage yet. Again, you know, I think it's perfect casting. I think it'll be fine. But I'm looking forward to the end of Phase 2 with that and with Age of Ultron. And, yeah. If you guys got any questions or comments, feel free. And we'll see you out there, true believers.